Week number 8, final 2 weeks of the regular season, and the Bears come in at 7-0. Our weekly preview presented by Main Street Suites and EMS Detergent Services. Jason Miller, Bears 7-0, homecoming victory. It was frigid Friday night. It was just one of those where it was nice all week. Temperatures just plummeted, but you know what? The Bears didn't let that bother them. They didn't let homecoming bother them. They came out, took care of business, 42-0 victory.
Well, it's football weather. Yeah. We'd been missing out on football weather this year, and we finally got one. The Bears took care of what they needed to take care of. Really, the only thing that they still need to shore up a little bit, and it's just this late in the season, is maybe knock down a little bit on the penalties, or maybe still a little bit of a question mark to try to be a little bit more disciplined. But it's not for the lack of the coaching that's going on during practice. They're getting better. They're making a lot of great plays upfield. Defensively, another good play, another touchdown, 93-yard fumble return, and they held a team to less than 110 yards. That's at this point here, you want to hang your hat on something, hanging on the defense and the offense also almost 400 yards. Everything was going pretty well.
Yeah, going well. You look, not only the 93-yard fumble return for the touchdown, that was something. Let's go to that right now, just because that was a case where we had, started the second half, we drive down, there was a pass that got knocked up in the air, intercepted. Okay, fine. We get the ball back. We had a penalty. We turn it over on downs. Okay, fine. We start driving down the field again. We fumble it. And then all of a sudden they pick it up, and they've got nothing but green in front of them. Wyatt Goodale runs the kid down, tackles him at the 15 or whatever it was. A couple plays later, Dalen Peterson punches it out. I mean, that's one of those that if you want to be a winning football team, those are the little things that you do to make a difference.
Yeah, and people aren't going to look at it. They're going to look at, it was a 93-yard fumble return by a 6'5" kid. They're not going to remember Wyatt Goodale working his tail off to try to stop a team from scoring, which – if he does it, that score goes from 28-0 to 28-7, and you never know what steamrolls after that. Obviously, it was in the fourth, near the third and fourth, end of the third quarter, early fourth. But you make a hustle play like that. It's a good senior, and we talked about how he's starting to come into his own. That just shows the heart of a kid to make a play, and look what happened 3 plays later. Karma worked back in West Branch's favor and ended up winning 42-0.
Yeah. Well, then you mentioned, just the yards allowed, and it was just that defensive line was making pressure all night. The linebackers were making plays. The secondary was doing a good job. I mean, we had 2 more interceptions, 3 takeaways on the night, and so that defense just doing what they need to do, and it just seems like we've talked about it a lot, but this group is just aggressive. They're hungry. They don't want to allow any yards, and that all stems from Coach Bailey.
It does, and I mean, look at Bailey was a linebacker in high school, Tyler Bailey. And he had 3 interceptions in one game one night, and he's really preaching a little bit more. There's a lot emphasis on being a little bit more aggressive. You got an open gap, fill the gap. If you got it outside, you got to be more athletic in the West Branch base defense to be able to cover pass, shiv a guy coming across the middle. And Cameron Hauser last week tips the pass and then finishes it off, intercepts it, returns it 12 yards, put the Bears in position to score about 3 plays later on a third down pass to Trey Eagle across the middle. And then the other interception was it Goodale, of course.
To me, that was a pressure interception where the quarterback had to throw early because the D-line was pressuring, threw it behind the receiver right into Goody's lap.
I about said Kaleberg, but he was in the spot. Maybe he'll get one this week, and I think Jack Robertson is in the right positions at his cornerback position. Sooner or later, something's going to work out. But that pressure up front is really doing a job with Bowie and Peterson and Paulson and Hartz and anybody else who's been up front, just making things a lot easier for the guys in the back.
Yeah. Well, and then on the offensive side, like you said, almost 400 yards, did a lot on the ground. Tanner had some running room. Great to see that offensive line get into some of those lanes. And then Coach Hirschman recognizing what Northeast was giving, that they had the safeties on the outsides. Everything was open up the middle. So once the line did their job, it was all Tanner from there, and he didn't have any work to do.
No, and also, passing efficiency were 11 of 16. 3 of those incompletions were Gavin Hirschman at quarterback seeing nothing is available, so doing the smart thing by throwing it away rather than taking a sack or running out of bounds and taking a loss. So, credit him for making some intelligent plays. So the efficiency there and on the ground. Tanner's back to the last year he averaged 10.8 yards a carry. The other night, or last Friday night, he had 13 for 190. Do your math, and it's about just shy of 15 yards per carry. So it's good to see him get back in the saddle, getting that confidence again, and just see that offensive line open things up that a truck could drive through.
Yeah. Well, that's the time of year to be clicking because we're heading into the final 2 weeks, and these are two teams that we've been talking about, and some unknowns, but some talent, some quality there, and we've got Cascade coming up first, and 3-4, but very similar. I really wish that they would have played Bellevue before us so that we could have a good gauge, because I think them and Bellevue are pretty similar in the fact that their record is not indicative of how good they are because their schedule has been very tough.
It has been, and you said it, this a team, they're hungry. They're starting to get some more wins after losing their first two. Then they win their third game. Then they lose their next two. Then they win their next two. It's just back and forth for them. They've got some confidence rolling now. And this is that, I love this analogy. I'm going to bring it back. It's like the 12th round knockout. The fighter in the 12th round that knows on the card he's getting beaten. But if he knocks a team out, knocks the other guy out, he can still win. That's Cascade Friday night. They need to protect their home field. They need to beat West Branch to stay alive in the playoff hunt, because their only chance to get into the playoff is to win the district. And right now they're a game behind West Branch. And they've got a lot of great athletes from football to basketball to baseball to every single sport. Look at the record books. They'll show you that Cascade is good, and they've got athletes. They can give you troubles both with feet, size, or with their speed and size, I should say.
Definitely. And one of the write-ups, I can't remember which one it was, they were saying, West Branch, they're going to have lopsided scores the last 2 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised, but I would be surprised just because they're going to be hungry, like you say. They're 2-1, a win, and they're tied for first in the district, so they know what's at stake here. And you look at running back Colby Holmes, receiver and defensive end Alex Atchison, among others. That these guys are there. They had some success in years past. They want to get back into that postseason, and so they are going to come out and be ready to fire on all cylinders on senior night.
Yeah, and they got a big athletic quarterback in Jackson McAleer, I'm guessing is how it's pronounced. 6'5", 195 pounds. I mean, he only completes 39% of his passes, but he's a big guy. He's a good athlete. So when you get a hit on a guy that's 6'5", he's not exactly just going to go right down. He's going to slip out. So you have to make sure to wrap up. Yeah. And we always teach that. Every coach teaches wrap up, or he's going to get out of there and he's going to get out in the open field and they can make plays with Colby Holmes. Kid's averaging over 100 yards rushing per game. So the Bears better come, strap it on tight, and be ready to finish right away. Or they could get a rude awakening Thursday night at a place that none of these kids have ever been to play football before.
Well, and I was looking at it, back to their schedule. They've lost to Waukon, who's 7-0, Benton Community, who's 6-1, Monticello, who's 5-2, and then North Cedar, who's at 4-3. And North Cedar's had a tough non-district as well. So, it's not like those losses are to bad teams. They've had some tough competition, and so, it's going to be a fun one.
The first three you named have all been ranked. Waukon's been number 1 in Class 2A all year long. Benton Community has been ranked in the top 10 all year long. Monticello was ranked until a recent loss. And now they're playing another ranked team in West Branch. They know the feeling because they've played these tough teams before, Stephen. They know what they need to do. They know what they need to see. And again, they know they have to win Friday night to keep alive for their senior class. This is what they have. If they want to write something on the board, this is what we have. It's a playoff game for Cascade this week. And that team behind us better realize that they're not just going to walk up there and beat this team because the numbers say they should. This team is playing for their playoff life, and that's a tough team you don't want to have to play all the time.
Well, it's going to be a varsity-only contest, 7 o'clock kickoff. If you cannot make it up there, we'll be there with the Bearcast. Pregame starts at 6:30. Big thank you to Main Street Suites and EMS Detergent Services, sponsors for our weekly broadcast or weekly previews right here at westbranchfootball.com.